Hey everybody, here's your Tuesday math video. Just wanted to come at you today to start off going over what you should have completed yesterday, page 365, numbers 1 through 11, and then I'll get you started on the homework for today for this lesson. Like I said, we're going to squeeze in a couple lessons to try to move things along through this fraction stuff. I know in my video yesterday I didn't really get to preview this page. I ran out of time. I only get 15 minutes to record, but I did want to start off. So if you're watching this Monday, that's cool too, just to keep you moving on this stuff. But just to go over this number 1 on page 365, then we'll take a look at a couple others. I got a couple other visuals here where we can practice around. Again, this is just a quick little simple problem, but we're kind of walking through it slow. So we're going to estimate the sum or difference. We're going to estimate the sum of 5/6 plus 3/8. Okay. So what we've got here is this part A, B, and C. It kind of walks you through the steps. Okay, so what I have here is a visual model, visual fractions that we'll fill in, and then also using these benchmarks. Here in the middle are my benchmarks, 0, half, or 1, and we've got these on a number line with the fractions highlighted. We'll just find where they are on the number line, and then what benchmark are those closest to. Okay, so our first part, rounding 5/6 to its closest benchmark. Like we talked about with mental math, you might see that 5/6, 5 out of 6 is almost all of it. So you can probably guess already what we're going to round that to. But again, just to highlight this and do the visual, if I have sixths here and I highlight 5/6, like think about if I have like a pie cut into 6 pieces and I eat 5 of them, I ate almost the whole pie, almost one whole pie, right? So that's there. That's what 5/6 looks like kind of on a visual basis. Then if we find it here on our number line, here's 5/6, and we can see again, we're comparing what's it, I'm going to kind of drag it down to this other, so here's in the red is our benchmark amounts. So we're between half and 1, and you'll notice, like we said, 5/6 is almost all of it, and we can see here on the number line that it's closer to 1. So I'm going to go ahead and round that to a whole number 1. Okay, so if we're going to take 5/6 to the closest benchmark, again, this is all just estimating for this lesson, so we're just going to round that to 1 whole. We'll just call it 1 whole to get us started there. Okay, so there's 1 whole for that one. Now, again, just whole idea is just to get close and find a benchmark that's easy to work with and get us thinking about, okay, this is about how much we're talking about, and get to where we can think about those things. The next one is around 3/8 to its closest benchmark, and I think we saw 3/8 yesterday in another example, but again, just to go over that and highlight it here. If this is my eighths here, notice there are 8 sections here. If I cut a pie into eighths and I ate 3 of them, we've got that much. So notice here, 4/8 would make 1/2. So you can probably see that's probably what we're going to round it to. But again, we're talking about 3 to start us out. Now, if I again mark that over here, I'm going to follow my lines. Here's my 3/8 on a fraction visual, and here it is on the number line. Here's where 3/8 is there, and we can see this is between 0 and 1/2. And what we've got with that is this is going to be closer to 1/2. Okay, so here we're going to round 3/8 to 1/2. Here I'm going to make that a little smaller too. To 1/2. Okay, so we're going to say that's about 1/2. Okay, then that makes our estimating a little bit easier. Again, we'll work on how we can actually solve 5/6 plus 3/8 a couple lessons down the road. But in this case, we're just going to say 5/6 plus 3/8 is kind of like 1 plus 1/2. And that's pretty easy to think of what that answer would be. So we'd have 1, I'll make that red. We'd have 1 plus 1/2 would make 1 and 1/2, right? So again, this is kind of hard for me to, I'm going to go ahead and write it in. We have 1 and 1/2 is what we would round that to, okay? If our estimated answer, 1 and 1/2. Okay, so that's how we can get there. Again, down the road, we'll find the exact answers, but today and this first lesson we're covering is all about just kind of getting it close. Okay, now again, we can use mental math with some of these. We don't always have to use these visuals. As we practice more, usually the visuals are good to start us on, the number lines we see, and then the fraction pieces that we've got. So if we look through a few of these, we can also use some mental math. So let's maybe go through 2, 3, and 4. And then again, you should have had 5, 6, all these other ones. But I'm going to maybe jump past those just to make sure we're kind of on the right track. If I have 5/9 minus 3/8, sometimes we might get a tricky situation like this where you feel like my answer is not what I want to have, but it's okay because again, we're estimating. If I have 5/9 5 is about half of 9. So I can say that's kind of like 1/2 minus 3/8. Hey, we already talked about 3/8 a lot, right? So we know 3/8 is also close to 1/2 like we see it on here. So in this case, we have 1/2 minus 1/2. Which means that estimated answer would actually be 0. Again, that might feel wrong or weird, but that's okay. It just means our answer is like really small. It doesn't mean it is actually 0, but it means if we found the real answer, it would be closer to 0. We took something that's about 1/2 and subtracted something that's about 1/2, and that would leave close to nothing. But so again, this is not an exact answer, but it's an estimated answer. As far as our benchmarks are concerned, the closest answer would be that it would be close to 0, okay? Let's look at number 3, 6/7. 6 out of 7. If I have 7 pieces and I take out 6 of them, or I put in 6 of them, that's almost all of them. So we can say 6/7 is close to a whole number 1. I'm just going to make that like 1 whole as far as our benchmarks. Then we have plus 2 and 4/5. So think about it this way. If I have 2 wholes, I know I have 2 wholes. 4/5 is almost another whole part, which would mean I would have how many total? If I rounded it, we would have about 3 total parts, okay? So then we would have, okay, about 1 plus about 3 would make an easy estimated answer. Our answer would be close to 4. Great, okay? Awesome. How about the next one? Now we've got 5/6. 5 out of 6, like we saw up here, is almost a whole part. Again, if we see it on the number line, we can see it's close to 1. And we're going to round that to 1. So 5/6 is almost everything. So we can say that's about 1. And then plus 2/5. 2/5 is kind of in between, would be between 0 and 1/2. 2.5 or 2 5/10 would be half of 5. So this is actually really close to 1/2. So in this case, I would go ahead and round this to 1/2. And then we can just think, okay, well, what's 1 plus 1/2? Well, just like we saw up here, 1 plus 1/2 would be 1 and 1/2. So again, we'll work with mixed numbers a little bit down the road, okay? So that's how we can do 2, 3, and 4. Hopefully you did okay on that yesterday. I am going to jump ahead a little bit here just to preview the math homework for today, which you're going to turn into me online, but it's the same kind of stuff as these. So again, think about it as these, like if you see some that are close to a whole part, almost all of it, that's how we can round it that way to 1 whole. Let's go ahead and look at a couple on page 367. So this is your assignment today. You're going to turn this in online after you finish up, so you can go ahead and be getting that to me pretty soon. Let's look through a couple here, and this will get you a little head start, a couple little hints if you're one of those people watching my video, as everybody should, but I have discovered that not everybody watches these videos, so sorry for them. That's too bad. They're not taking advantage of the resources, but you guys are that are watching this. So on page 367, let's take a look at number 2. 1/8 would be close to 0. It's not very much, right? So we can say this is about 0 as far as rounding to the nearest whole numbers here, or the nearest benchmark. So we could say 1/8 is about 0. Now 1/4 is tricky. 1/4 is right between 0 and 1/2. What I would probably do, since we're adding together, we know we're not going to have 0 in the end. I'd probably say this is, let's just go ahead and call this about 1/2. But then if we have 0 plus 1/2, that would mean our estimated answer would be 1/2. Okay. Cool. Let's do number 3. 4/5. 4 out of 5. Almost all of the fifths would be like, we can round that to 1. Call that about 1 whole, again, using our benchmarks. And then 1/2, hey, that's already a half. That's already at a benchmark. So then we got to think, what's 1 minus 1/2? That would leave 1/2. Okay, so there's an answer for number 3. All right. So that gets you off to a pretty good start. Let me see if there's, let's maybe do a mixed number one. Let's see. How about let's do number 8. Okay. If you look at number 8 here, I'm going to skip down to this one again. You've got all these other ones to do, but this is going to be a nice little start on the homework and a few easy answers. So thanks for watching the video. You get a little bonus. If I have 1 7/8, what would we round that to? 7/8 is almost a whole part, almost all of the 8ths. So I would round that to 1, but I've also got the 1 already, so this would be about like 2. Okay. Now again, 1 and 1/2, we already see that benchmark of 1/2, so I would probably leave that as 1 and 1/2. So now we got to think, okay, what's 2 minus 1 and 1/2? Well, we take out one part and then another half, that would leave us with just 1/2. So here's another example where our answer is 1/2 as far as the estimated answer, okay? And again, down the road, we'll be working on actually finding exact answers using fractions. But the skill for this first lesson is all about just finding those close estimates, okay? Using those benchmarks 0, half, or 1 to help you find a good answer and get started on some mental math and get close, okay? So hopefully this wasn't too bad. Go ahead and make sure you finish up the homework here today, and then there should be a link in your email, so make sure you turn that into me as well. I'll look forward to that. Again, whole new thing here. Similar stuff, similar ideas, talking about fractions instead of decimals. Seems totally different, but it's actually representing the same stuff, which is those parts of the whole, okay? So again, look back at the video, watch the rest if you need to. Good luck on the homework. Tomorrow's video, we are going to jump into the next lesson to try to keep us moving through it, okay? So again, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow for some more math. Thank you, everybody.